Good morning and welcome to Cool Sports. My name is Jeffrey Cool, and today I'm joined by NFL Network reporter Omar Ruiz, and we're going to discuss the upcoming NFL draft in depth. We are looking at preferably the top 10 picks, but we will cover a lot of different aspects of the draft that's coming up on April 29th. Omar, how are you this morning?
Hey, Jeffrey, cool name, man.
Thank you.
Literally.
All right, let's start with the Jaguars. Obviously, it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. Great quarterback, Clemson, outstanding resume, national championship. We have to think that that's where they're headed with that pick, right?
Yeah, it seems like Urban Meyer's done his due diligence, obviously has dissected the college game as an analyst last couple of years, and before that on the recruiting trails as head coach of Ohio State. And Trevor Lawrence seems to be that surefire number one overall pick that maybe we haven't seen since Andrew Luck in 2012. Not saying he's as good of a prospect coming out, but he seems to be as head and shoulders above anybody maybe since then. So it seems to be a match made in heaven there for Jacksonville to get the Urban Meyer underway.
Yeah, I agree. Then moving to the second pick, the Jets. After trading Sam Darnold to the Panthers, they really kind of showed their hand that they're going to go with the quarterback. My guess is that's going to be Zach Wilson. Everybody's guess is that's going to be Zach Wilson. BYU, strong arm, 6'3", 210 pounds. What do you think about that pick?
Yeah, it seems like the new style of the NFL, a player who can make the throws from all the different angles and have that Patrick Mahomes type of magic to him. Joe Douglas and Mike LaFleur and Robert Saleh and the Jets brass that were there at BYU's Pro Day looked awfully happy seeing what they were seeing from Zach Wilson's Pro Day there. So it seems to be that it's just a matter of time before they run that card up there with Zach Wilson's name on it.
Yeah, hopefully with the Jets' new coaching staff. I mean, I like Robert Saleh a lot as a coach, and LaFleur, his brother's a great coach at Green Bay. So I'm hoping that the Jets, since they're from around here, it would be better for the Jets and Giants to be more competitive. So hopefully Zach Wilson could really turn the franchise around for them. At number 3 now, this is where really things start to unravel. San Francisco trades up with Miami to get the number 3 pick, who Miami wasn't even their original pick, but they got it from Houston. And they originally thought, people think that it's going to be Mac Jones. Other people think it's a smokescreen going to be Justin Fields. I personally think it's going to be Justin Fields. What do you think? Where do you think they're headed with that pick?
Yeah, I kind of lean a little more heavily toward Justin Fields. I think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan haven't said much on this subject, obviously trying to keep the cards close to the vest. But one thing really stood out to me in Kyle Shanahan's comments about Justin Fields is, even though he only has 5 more starts than Mac Jones, say, in college, he did make a point of emphasis to say that there's a lot of tape on Justin Fields. And what do we hear all the time, Jeffrey, in this time of year, that evaluators have to rely on the tape, and all these workouts and pro days and combine is just to confirm what they've already seen on film. So I think that, Shanahan and Lynch, they're relying heavily on what they've seen from the tape on Justin Fields, and will ultimately be led in that direction. But I think it's not insincere, the interest in Mac Jones. I think he's somebody who, in NFL circles, maybe not in media or public circles, but in NFL circles, Mac Jones is somebody who shot up the draft board, and there's a lot to like there with what he brings to the NFL. But ultimately, my gut tells me it'll be Justin Fields.
Yeah, I agree. Mac Jones, I mean, he had the one season this year where he won the national championship, beat Ohio State, was helped a lot by his receiver, Devonta Smith, who went on to win the Heisman Trophy. But I think Fields, again, is just too good a prospect to pass up. Shanahan already has experience working with Fields kind of quarterback with RG3 in Washington 2012. Before Griffin had that horrific knee injury, he was really great in Washington, looked like they were going to do great things. So I personally think that's where San Francisco will go with that pick. With the 4th pick, I really think that Atlanta will look to move this. And I think that they're going to give it to Denver. And I think Denver is going to take Trey Lance. I'm not sure if that's something that Atlanta would look to move out. If they keep it, obviously, I think they're going to go with Kyle Pitts. But I think that my thought process is, if Atlanta trades out of that pick, that's some more draft capital down the road. They'll roll with Matt Ryan another year, and then if they look to move on, they'll have capital to move up in possibly next year's draft or the year after to try to replace Matt Ryan.
Yeah, that's not a bad thinking. That's pretty good reasoning. It's really interesting because, yeah, at number 4, that's I think in essence where the draft begins. We have no idea what the Falcons are going to do if they do go at quarterback. Who do they like better amongst the ones that appear might be available? Certainly hold a lot of draft trade leverage for teams like you just mentioned, the Broncos that might want to move up. Maybe it's New England coming up from 15. But certainly a lot of intrigue there, whether they go quarterback or not. Obviously, a lot of rebuilding. That team needs a lot of holes. Obviously, having hit that downward trajectory from their Super Bowl a few years ago. But Arthur Smith has the resources and the tools to do it. It'll be interesting to see which direction they go.
Yeah, I think that they can go anyway. They could trade out of that pick, move down, take a quarterback to replace Ryan down the road, take a big receiver, whether that's Pitts, Chase, to try to help out Matt. Probably not Chase because they already have Ridley and Jones, but Pitts or trade out of the spot. 5, Cincinnati. I think there's a lot of talk that they're going to go after Jamar Chase from LSU, reunite him with Burrow, but I think that could be Burrow against the organization. I think the organization is going to win and take Penei Sewell, great run blocker, pass blocker, maybe even the best offensive line prospect in a few years. So,
yeah, obviously with Burrow's injury, it just shows what sort of importance quarterback health is to that organization and the longevity of Joey Burrow. So I think, with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon, they have weapons, but obviously got to protect the future of the franchise for years to come. So Sewell makes perfect sense there.
Yeah, that's my thinking too. Number 6, Miami. I think they're going to try to get Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is a dynamic tight end, a one-of-a-kind talent. Some people even compare him as high as Kelsey, and that's a lot for a young receiver coming out of the draft when Kelsey's already solidified himself, almost maybe even a Hall of Fame tight end.
Yeah, Pitts is another fantastic weapon. Whether you go Smith here or Waddle or any of the number of dynamic playmakers you have on offense, you're surrounding Tua with more talent. And obviously, a lot of people had mixed reviews on Tua's rookie year. But you got to figure they didn't have too many playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. So give Tua another shot, continue to build, having a fully built, potent offense around him will truly give an indicator on if he is your franchise quarterback or not. And if he's not, then you have the pieces in place for whoever that quarterback might be in the long run. So, continue to stack those weapons and make Miami's offense as capable as its defense proved to be last year.
Yeah, I really like Miami going forward. If Tua, I'm kind of mixed about Tua's rookie year, but if Tua can really come out and be a good, solid quarterback, I think they're really good. I like their coach, Brian Flores, who came from New England. They got Will Fuller in the offseason, which I really think was an underrated move. He can really stretch the field for Tua and really help him out. And especially if they get another pass catcher, that's 2 weapons that they didn't have. Plus, they already have Mike Gesicki, who's a decent target. And I think pretty sure they still have Devontae Parker.
Yeah, they have the chips in place.
Yeah. Number 7, Detroit. My thinking is going to be Jamar Chase. I mean, they don't have much help. Wide receiver, they lost Galladay and Marvin Jones. 2 players that were there with Stafford. They got Goff now. Completely revamped the organization. I think they're going to try to go with Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I would love to see, just like a tough, big-bodied receiver to replace Galladay, like you said, and really to help fortify the mentality that they're bringing there to Detroit and the mindset that they want to turn Detroit around and be tough and be blue collar and Jared Goff, obviously the trigger man there in that offense. You give him more weapons and give him a chance as opposed to, obviously Marvin Jones no longer there. You mentioned Kenny Galladay. So to kind of rebuild that offense with obviously younger receivers in mind.
Yeah, I think that Goff really needs the help. I mean, Goff, you have to think he was successful for most of the part in LA. They just wanted to upgrade with Stafford. But when he was successful, he had Todd Gurley, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Josh Reynolds, all these receivers. And he does not have that help in Detroit at the moment. So they're really going to have to try to build around him if they want to be successful. Number 8, Carolina. My thought process, Rashawn Slater, protect Darnold. If they're going to, they already picked up the 5th. I'm pretty sure they picked up the 5th-year option on Darnold. So they're invested in him. They gave up some picks for him. I think that they're going to try to take Slater and try to build that offense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Obviously, you can block for Christian McCaffrey and just make that offense go. And obviously, Matt Rule likes to have strong defensive, offensive lines, really build that team in the trenches. And Slater seems to be a perfect fit there in that he can play a variety of positions. I think, a lot of scouts say that he can play all five on the offensive line. So you have that versatility there for the long term at a high level talent and protect Sam Darnold and whoever might be quarterbacking there for years to come and get that ground game going with Christian McCaffrey on his way back.
Yeah, I really think that Sam Darnold could be a good quarterback for them. I mean, he wasn't surrounded by much talent with the Jets, but DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and I like Joe Brady as a play caller out of LSU. His first year was a little rough. I mean, McCaffrey was out for a lot of the year. Bridgewater really isn't their guy. So I'm excited to see what Joe Brady can do with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, McCaffrey, and whatever piece they look to help Darnold with in the draft. Now, with the 9th pick, I think Atlanta, whether they want to keep this pick and take a corner, they could trade away this pick again if they really want to. I'm not sure what direction do you think possibly Atlanta can go in this area?
This is Denver has number 9.
This is Denver's pick, yeah.
So, for the Broncos, I think you got to continue to build, whatever, offensive, either playmaker or somewhere on the offensive line. And obviously the thought process is, with Drew Lock, you give him one last shot. You hope that he becomes Josh Allen and really flourishes in that third year with Pat Shurmur. If they do go quarterback, you have somebody that can compete right away with Lock, maybe push Lock, to get him in that competition mode where he enhances his game a little bit. And if not, then you have your quarterback of the future. But I think it's a viable offense already with the number of weapons they have. Cortland Sutton's obviously going to be a huge star, assuming he comes back healthy and everything. I think the defense is still in place to be really solid. Ideally, you get Chubb and Miller back together for the long term.
Yeah.
It's really a good team that, is one of those that have that capability to turn it around and contend with Kansas City in the division. But I think, whether they go quarterback or not, they're set up for the long term, but they do have to have that franchise quarterback, whether it's Drew Lock or a rookie this year.
Yeah, if they stick with Lock, they stick with Lock. I'm hoping they move up and get Lance or Fields, but that's just my thought process there. If they traded to Atlanta, maybe Atlanta takes one of the corners there. I'm not sure, but number 10, Dallas, Patrick Surtain. I think if Surtain's on the board, Dallas is running that card to the podium.
Yeah, they need a lot of help. They've needed help in the secondary seemingly for a couple years now. And obviously Surtain would, a lot of people have him as the best defensive player overall in the draft. And if I'm not mistaken, in this mock draft scenario that you have, this is your first defensive player off the board.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So Surtain, is one of those maybe Jalen Ramsey type in the future where you can play him all over the field and really use him as a defensive weapon as opposed to maybe just a shutdown corner, which he appears he could be that as well.
Yeah, he's really good. Alabama's 3-year starter. My next pick, I got the Giants, Jalen Waddle. I mean, if they're going to go with Daniel Jones, they're going to go with Daniel Jones, and now it's time. So, I mean, they got Galladay on the outside. I think they need another piece to try to build around him as best they can. I mean, with Jones, Barkley, Galladay, Waddle, I don't see any reason why this team can't succeed, at least on the offensive side of the ball. So this is Daniel Jones' really opportunity to take the next step up.
Yeah, I like somewhere on offense, whether it's a lineman or another weapon, would be good. Obviously, three of the first 5 picks the Giants took last year were linemen. So obviously trying to rebuild the trenches. Dave Gettleman loves those hog mollies, as he likes to call them. So getting another one there, whether it's Darisaw, maybe Slater's still available. If the Panthers or somebody else doesn't select him, or if it's another weapon, like you said, somebody in the slot, they're like a Waddle, a playmaker that you could use all over the field, maybe line up end arounds, things of that nature to really diversify that offense. But yeah, build around Daniel Jones. I mean, obviously you invested in a 6 overall pick for him. Give him a shot, surround him with weapons and go from there.
Yeah. Next, Philadelphia. I like J.C. Horn in that spot, corner from South Carolina, aggressive man corner. They need somebody to pair up with Darius Slay. And I mean, Darius Slay and J.C. Horn, that could be a real dynamic duo in Philadelphia secondary for years to come. And as we see, the Giants have already improved their wide receiver room. Dallas, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. Somebody's going to have to cover these guys. So I think Philly's going to go corner in this spot here.
Yeah, it makes sense. I wouldn't mind, somewhere along the defensive line as well. But yeah, defense, I think, is where they need to go and see what Hurts can do offensively. But you're right. I think with so much emphasis on the offensive side of the ball in today's game and where the Eagles are in their sort of rebuilding process, defense makes a lot of sense. And especially at corner, someone opposite Slay there is, good insight there by you.
Yeah. The last thing I want to cover, Patriots quarterback. Do they trade up? Do they sit back? Do they wait to see if Mac Jones falls to them? Do they try to go into the top 10? What is your thinking as what Bill will do and try to address the quarterback position?
Well, I think they've set themselves up to get what the Patriots always like to do, and that's get good value. So, they don't have to sell the farm to try to move up and get one of these quarterbacks if one falls to them, or if it makes a little more sense to move up just a few spots to jump ahead of somebody to get a quarterback that Bill really likes. But otherwise, you have all that talent now surrounding Cam. Obviously, the way Bill spoke about Cam Newton is a big believer in him. Year 2 with Josh McDaniels, I think people forget that, one of Tom Brady's frustrations in leaving was that they didn't have enough weapons for him. And it was still the case last year with Cam Newton. They didn't really have too many weapons around. Obviously not the story in 2021. Cam will have a better shot. So rebuilding that defense, fortifying more weapons for Cam Newton, or getting that quarterback of the future all in play. But it's doing what the Patriots always do, and that's getting them good value, and they're not going to have to overbite to move up and get a quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see what Bill does, but I think he does have sort of the chips in place to move up if he wanted. But we've seen over time and time again, Bill's not going to sell the farm to improve just in 1 year.
Yeah, I agree. He's not going to overpay to move up to get somebody that he's not completely sold on. I think Mac Jones may even slip down to them and fall right into their hands if they want. But I agree with Cam having new weapons this year, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Nelson Aguilar, just to name a few of the offseason moves that they've made. And their defense is improving too. They had a lot of guys that opted out last year because of COVID issues. And I think the Patriots are going to bounce back this season, no matter who's under center. But Coach Belichick, the offensive weapons that they have, that's my opinion on that.
Yep.
All right, that is all for today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Omar, for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome, Jeffrey. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.